Bada bing, bada boom. I'm getting cornier with every episode, y'all. What up, what up, what up? You know it's your boy Sam at Vertical Expressions back at it again with another episode of Not Another Christian Podcast. I'm getting really good at saying that really fast. You know, when you talk close to the microphone, it just sounds really cool. But what up, y'all? Good morning. I'm gonna be straight up and I'm gonna let you guys know. I made a promise to myself. I said, you know what? Until May 5th, you're gonna stay consistent. You're gonna have an episode every week, even if it's crap, even if you feel like it's not your best. You're gonna go out there. You're just gonna do the dang thing, and you're gonna show up. You're gonna show up for the YouTube community. You're gonna speak whatever the Lord has put in your heart, and don't be afraid to share. I don't look for the perfect. You guys know what I'm talking about. You guys know my journey. I'm not looking for the perfect YouTube video I was before, but I'm just trying to let go of my insecurities, and just do the thing. So I want to say good morning. Happy Saturday. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming through the page again. Today I'm going to keep it short and sweet, not because I want to, but because I feel like I don't have much to talk about. I know I'll probably title whatever the video is going to be titled according to what I end up talking about today. I know I got a Bible study. It's a word. Y'all know I've been going through 1 Samuel. It's a word in my heart. Just a thought. I thought I'd bring it up. Make this video not completely pointless. But you know what? Let's talk about it. So what was his name? I don't even know. That's how real I am. I don't even know what his name was. Derek Chauvin. I think it's Chauvin. A-U. Cho. Derek Chauvin. Let's talk about the trial of Derek Chauvin. Let's talk about the verdict. Derek Chauvin verdict. You know, he was found guilty, and everybody knows that by now. I'm not making this video to let you guys know, oh my goodness, this guy's found guilty. No, but I feel like what happened after he was found guilty was a little weird for me. And I was like, maybe, again, as a community, are we going about this the right way? And this has nothing to do with Christianity at this point. It has everything to do with the black community, right? Minorities, all that stuff. Derek Chauvin was found guilty, was convicted of all charges, and a lot of folks, NBA players, it's really where I saw it the most, only because I'm a big NBA fan, but a lot of athletes were just like, justice was served. I think LeBron said accountability, but pretty much everyone was just like, yes. Justice was served. He got what he deserved. Okay, he's guilty. And it was like a victory for the black community. And which, first of all, is silly, right? The fact that in the back of our minds, this dude was going to go free. Like, if you commit murder, you commit murder. I'm not going to be shocked if I commit murder and I'm found guilty. I don't think anyone who commits murder is going to go to trial and be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I was guilty. No, I don't even understand where the question, like, where was the debate? Why? And I understand things can happen. And it just kind of shows how traumatized the community has been in not seeing justice, that when something happens that's supposed to happen, you know, it's out of the ordinary. It's sad. It's really sad. Chris Rock talked about it in one of his specials. He's like, he hates fathers who celebrate doing things that fathers are supposed to do. Oh, I paid the bills. I paid the rent this month. I kept the lights on. You're supposed to do that. You're celebrating and rejoicing and bragging about the roles that you're fulfilling in life that you're supposed to be doing. Ooh, and I might just end up talking about this, because unfortunately, this isn't just a black community thing. I think it's something that has been around for generations and generations. I mean, thousands of years. but definitely something that we're seeing today in our generation, which is that we are celebrating things that honestly should just be part of operating in this life. And I'm not saying you don't rejoice when something goes good. I'm not saying like live your life unhappy. But if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, like the levels of instant gratification have gotten so real. They were real before, but I feel like they've gotten so real. They've gotten so, these buses, y'all, I might have to, I'm not gonna. People go to the gym, right? You go to the gym once because your doctor told you to lose weight and you went to the gym. You feel so accomplished that you treat yourself and undo all the work that you did at the gym, right? That sense of instant gratification, that desire for instant gratification. You have students who, it's gotten so bad where you have students, high school students, and I did this, so I'm not judging anybody. It's like, I remember telling my mother once, yo, I passed my classes, and I was bragging. I was like, yo, you owe me. In my head, I'm like, you owe me. I passed all my classes. I didn't fail anything. Well, that's like what's supposed to happen, right? You've been going to class just for showing up every day and giving an average effort, like C average effort. You should pass the class. There's nothing exceptional or great about that. But because I may have set a low standard, maybe with failing classes, maybe because of my community, everybody else was failing. Just the fact that I passed made it much of a bigger ordeal than it should have been. And maybe we've gotten so used to such a low standard of life that when something happens that's supposed to happen, we think that it's just like a one side of the blue thing. And we don't recognize that this is the normal. This should be the normal, right? You should be successful. We get a black millionaire, we get a black billionaire, and it's like, oh my God, you know, it's a big deal. And it is a big deal because that's huge, right? But I can't help but wonder, there's so many on the other side of the table. There's so many, like, I think it's a statistic. There are a lot more white families that are wealthy than black families. And to them, they see wealthiness and they expect it. It's normal to them. And it's easier for wealth to grow. But for us, it's like, oh my goodness, this person is wealthy. And we treat it like a special case instead of recognizing that this could be all of us. Has nothing to do with money. I'm not really having a money talk. I just think it's a perspective thing. And I personally have been going through a season where growth and correction and discipline has been major. It's been major for me because I am now recognizing my birthday is coming up soon, and I've been trying to do a deep dive on myself, really getting to see me for me, not the me that I'm constantly projecting in my head, because I really do think the best of me. But I'm trying to be honest about the me that I really am, who I show myself to be, what my actions say on my behalf, even though my words say something else. And I'm finding that there's so many things that when I sit back and I let it settle in, I'm like, oh, this is honestly kind of disgusting. This is honestly kind of, I can't believe this is what you are. This is what you're doing. How did it get so far? How did I become this? And it's easy for me to think that way. How did I become this? As if it's out of the blue, but it's been there all along. I just never noticed it. So discipline is important. Oh man, I had a thought. I was going somewhere. I completely just got like derailed. Buses, man. These buses are throwing me off my game. All right, don't worry. When I make it, I'm gonna have like this crazy studio. I'm not gonna hear anything. I'm gonna be focused. You guys won't have to deal with this. But all right. We're talking about discipline. Black community, Derek Chauvin. Where was I going with this? The verdict. The celebration of the verdict. Justice was served. Are we doing everything we can do to make sure that we're elevating our culture? Are we doing everything that we can do to make sure that we are elevating ourselves? I don't know how my mind got there, but there was a correlation between the response to the Derek Chauvin trial and the verdict, and something about it just made me want to look inside, like in here. It made me want to. These buses are really messing with me, y'all. It made me want to take a look at myself and really ask myself, am I growing? Am I being disciplined? Am I trying to learn? Am I trying to get better? The problem is I just don't remember how I got there. It'll come. Let's just move forward. I don't know if it's gonna come, y'all. I might tell you a joke while I remember. What's that called? I am not procrastinating. I am distracting. No, that's not it either. Whatever. I think that maybe there you go. All right. I got it. So the correlation between Derek Chauvin and how I got here and how I'm talking about growth, or want to talk about growth and self-discipline, is because maybe I don't want to call it brainwash. I think I spoke about this last week. People who are born into a situation, it's so hard for them to know more than that situation, right? Because you grow up thinking this is all that there is. And so you have to venture out of the walls, right? We have to venture out of Egypt in order to see what else is out there. In order to see other territories, other lands, you have to branch out. And usually the act of migration, of growth, of expanding, right? It costs something, because the travel, you got to walk, you got to travel, you're being thrown into a brand new environment. It might be hostile, it might not. You might have to fight for it, you might not. You never know. But I think that what I saw in response to like the Derek Chauvin verdict was that we've been living inside of this Egypt, inside of these walls for so long that when justice is actually served, it's a cause for celebration. And that shouldn't be. I'm just going to say it shouldn't be like that. Justice should be it should be fair. It should be something that we don't have to beg and plead for it. It should be equal. And I understand that, there are politics, there are things that can get in the way of that. But what I did want to talk about is, what are we doing as a people? And by people, I mean just us all, this generation. What are we doing to make sure that we're breaking out of these walls? That we are being more than what we were born into. What are you doing to assure that you are being more than what you were born into? Right? And if you were born into a lofty situation, that's great. But I think you still have the responsibility to not only succeed in your situation, but continue to expand, continue to open up more doors, continue to grow, continue to expand. Why I think self-discipline has a lot to do with that is because, unfortunately, a lot of us, we just don't have the external input, right? The Bible says that God corrects those that he loves. that act of correction, of being disciplined, it's a gift. And a lot of us don't have that gift. A lot of us don't have someone to say, hey, you're making the wrong decision, or hey, you shouldn't do that. Someone who's willing to step in and tell us that we're wrong. And even if we do have those people, a lot of times we don't even want to hear it because we're not mature enough to understand that correction is a gift, that correction is a blessing. Rightfully so. We've grown in a culture where correction has been used as a tool to break people down rather than build people up. And that just has everything to do with broken people, breaking people, or hurt people, hurting people. I've been corrected and it's hurt sometimes. And even when the correction came from a place of love, I just was not mature enough to receive it that way. By God's grace, I just listened, I continued to work, and I saw the fruit of continuing. I saw the fruit of taking heed to the correction, even begrudgingly, right? But now I'm walking into the season and I'm recognizing that I'm beginning to transition into yet another season where I am now correcting people. I am now being the example and the role model. I am who someone was for me. How do I make sure that I keep people in my life who can continue to propel me and push me forward? But also, how do I give myself the opportunity for self-growth? How do I begin to take responsibility for my life? How do I begin to be active in making sure that I am trending in the right direction? And that's tough. Some people don't have the external influence, but they have something burning inside of them that's telling them, you got to be better. You have to be greater. You are so much more than your circumstances. And you see them just break through the walls of what they were born into and grow and expand. And they have the capacity to self correct and self discipline. And it's a gift, right? And sometimes that same gift turns into a curse because it just pushes them over an edge, because at some point, they should have recognized that you also need the external. It's a balance of the two. And some people have the external, but they don't have any of the self-discipline. So they have people their whole lives trying to push them in the right direction. And maybe they end up trending in that direction begrudgingly, and then someone's not there to correct them, but they never develop that self-discipline. And so the blessing becomes a curse, right? You got too dependent on the external that you were never able to grow in the internal. What are we doing today to make sure that we're breaking past the walls of what we were born into? How are we behaving I'll speak to the black community. How are we behaving as a black community, I think as a black community? How are we behaving as a community to make sure that justice becomes the normal? What are we doing to act like we've been here before? Like they say that, like you've hit your first home run, and usually the guy who hits his first home run, he's like, he's going nuts. And then you got the OG, he's a home run hitter. He says, bro, act like you've been here before. And you could tell how nasty somebody is, how confident, how good they are, by how they approach the game. The confidence is nothing to me. Look at Michael Jordan, man, Mr. Clutch Shot. It's nothing to him. Bro, I've been here. This is, you know what I mean? There's a certain confidence that comes with knowing what you're worth, knowing what you got, knowing what's going to happen. You're in control. None of this surprises you. What are we doing to make sure we break past those boundaries? But now as a people, as anyone who's watching this, if you've made it this far, it's a rocky start, no doubt. But if you made it this far, I want to ask you, what are you doing to make sure that you are breaking past the walls, breaking past the Egypt that you were born into? What are you doing to make sure that you are being more than the bad examples that you had growing up? What are you doing to make sure that although you grew up in a great home, in a great situation, not only are you building on top of that, but you're leaving something greater for the next generation that comes after you? What are we doing to grow? And I don't have it all figured out. I don't, but I can tell you that I'm learning, and I think I'm onto something. There's a correlation between what am I trying to say here? There is a correlation between being able to do those things and discipline and correction. There's a correlation between growth and discipline and correction. It seems like the two just go very much hand in hand. And so I'm encouraging you. Man, I was thinking about this Bible verse, but I don't remember. It's not coming up. I'm encouraging you to receive correction with an open heart, but also receive correction from the right people. Don't go receiving correction from, listen, I'm sorry. I was taught this very early on in my Christian walk whilst I was learning to play guitar. Do not take advice. Do not take advice from someone who can't teach you a thing about where you're trying to go. Hear me out though. You may be trying to, let's say money. Let's talk about money for a second. You may be trying to become a millionaire. Of course, take advice from the billionaire. But what I'm noticing is that people set goals, whether it's become a millionaire, whether it's be successful, whether it's do this in my career or do that, or be a good father, or be a good mother, all the goals that you want to set, right? People don't notice that there's always two sides to the story. For every goal that you set, there's two sides. Doesn't matter what the goal is, there are two sides. Whether I want to play the guitar well, whether I want to be a millionaire, whether I want to be a successful YouTube content creator. Shout out Vertical Expressions. Hashtag almost made it. Doesn't matter what it is. There are two sides. Whatever your situation, think about it. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is, but you know what it is. There are two sides. I'm letting you know. You might think it's just the goal, which is be great. Be successful, the money, all this and that. But the other side to every one of those things, it's life. You can't, it might feel like you can just pigeonhole yourself and say, I'm going to focus on this and do this to the best of my ability and everything would be this and this and this. But in making that decision, there's a whole nother world that you shut yourself out of, right? And that's the life portion of it. And by life, I'm talking about balance. I'm talking about the people around you. I'm talking about responsibilities. I'm talking about who you are as a person, what you contribute to this world. If you're kind, if you're mean, if people will remember you, if they won't remember you, what you do in that life side, it matters. And so I realized that in my goals that I have for this season, I'm telling you what I tell myself when it comes to reaching the goal. Let's say if it's guitar, don't take advice from people who are not good at the guitar, right? Don't learn from bad examples. Whatever it is that you want to do, business owner, whatever, don't learn from people who have nothing to teach you. And you know if they have something to teach you because you give them the eye test, right? When you see greatness, you see greatness. You feel it. You acknowledge it. It sits right with you. You like what you're seeing. And maybe you see a little bit of yourself or what you would want through that. Doesn't mean it's that exactly, but you can see like, yeah, this can definitely be on my way to where I want to go, right? If you see a situation and you're like, don't take that advice. Even if it's given, don't take it. It's just going to lead you away from where you want to go. But now recognize this. That's just the one side of the coin. That's the one side of the goal. There are people in my life who I go to. I have one goal, right? Let's say my goal is to be a millionaire. There are people who I listen to that are going to push me towards being a millionaire. But there are people who I listen to who are going to help me to live a healthy life on my way to be a millionaire. You see what I mean? They're two coins, same goal, but two different voices. And that's so important because for the longest time, I just thought that if the goal is to be a millionaire, I just have to talk to millionaires and billionaires and people who are going to push me to be a millionaire while sacrificing the life portion of life. Everything else that's happening and going on. Balance is key. Balance is what's going to help you make it there the right way. Not compromising your character, not stepping over people's heads, not behaving like a piece of crap. Balance, seeing the things that maybe you miss. That's what you need the other side of the coin for, and so I do have people who, man, you can't help me be a millionaire, but you can help me to live a healthy life, and I trust you with my life, and you got to have that side of it, right? And then you go on your mission. You learn what you learn from the people who you have to learn from, right? And you take all of that and you come back to your trusted crew, your circle, your Cheerio, right? And you grow with them. You find out how to, you work out the kinks because you're not going to get it right the first time. You're going to try to implement how you're going to break out of these walls, how you're going to break out of Egypt, how you're going to be more. But having the right people around you who can give you perspective, who can help you out on life, it's going to have you leave Egypt the right way. That's good. That's good. Let me see. I think it's Bible time. I definitely spoke so much better than I thought I was going to speak. Let me tell you, I didn't know where I was going. When I pressed record, I was like, Jesus, take the wheel. Today, we're hitting 1 Samuel 8. And we're going to go to, let's do 1 Samuel 8:19. But the people refused to listen to Samuel. No, they said, we want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles. Verse 21. When Samuel heard all that the people said, he repeated it before the Lord. The Lord answered, listen to them and give them a king. Then Samuel said to the Israelites, everyone go back to your town. So, some hindsight of what happened before here. So for the longest time, Samuel, he was like prophet. It wasn't, he still is prophet for the people of God, right? Israel. And his sons were misbehaving. Just misbehaving. The people were like, we don't want this. We want a king. Everybody else has a king. All these nations have a king. Whenever we have to go to war, all the other nations have a king. There's leader. There's someone someone's calling the shots, and they have someone to stand up for them. We want a king because I'm tired of, think about it. And I understand. People of Israel, they were just people. Let's say some of them were blacksmiths. Let's say someone was a baker, right? You're a baker one day, all of a sudden you're at war, and now you have to be a soldier, right? I get it. You want some of that. Like, you're looking at other nations like, oh, well, they got a king and they got an army and they got people that's just for that. And so their bakers get to stay bakers. It's great. They didn't notice the blessing of their versatility. Like, God, the way God was moving with Israel at this time or up to this point was like, whoever wants to come up against you, they're going to come up against each and every one of you. And each and every one of you, I'm going to use each and every one of you as a tool for your deliverance. You don't even got to do much. Understand that at this point, they're winning wars by yelling and worshiping and all types of crazy things. And God is just doing supernatural acts to make sure that they stay on top. But because God was a voice, because God was intangible, because just like us, it's easier to put your faith in something that you can see. God wasn't enough. They had the victory, they had the peace. It just wasn't enough because they can't see it. And so you want the security of what you can see. Doesn't matter if God tells you, I'm going to bring prosperity, I'm going to deliver you. While you're going through the trial, while you are in the fire, all you see is the flames, right? You don't know where the rent is coming from. God said he will provide, though. But rent is due in 3 days and all you see is the past due. Doesn't matter if God shows up that morning and everything is going to be okay. Right up until you see that money hit your hands and you get to pay off that bill, you're stressing. And I understand that. So I get it. I understand. The problem is, they didn't understand what they were forfeiting in that transaction. And unfortunately, I feel like this applies to us today. A lot, very much so. Like, there are things that we are substituting because we want to see the result now. So we're taking up kings in our lives. We're taking up kings. I got no faith that this is going to happen. I don't see it happen. I don't think it'll happen on its own accord. I got to step in. God, I trust you. God, I trust you. The people never said, God, we don't trust you. Just like, we want a king. Like everybody else has a king. What's the problem? God, you can't give us a king? They wanted it to be their way. And they operated out of fear. And just as a rule of thumb, with anything in life, the minute you begin to operate out of fear, you're losing out on a lot. Let me just read this real quick. Last note that I wrote down because I completely forgot about it. It's really tough fitting out. I wonder how exposed they must have felt, how surrounded they must have felt. And I really get it. Because a lot of times, I mean, let me group my thoughts together. You have a people, a nation with no king, surrounded by nations with kings. Kings who wage war. That's scary. I'm not going to lie to you. Because when I think about it, I think about my life as a Christian, and I think about the things I'm not supposed to be doing. And I see the things that everybody else is doing. And so I find myself feeling exposed. I find myself feeling like I'm missing out. Not so much missing out on something, but I'm missing something that I'm going to need in order to survive. For example, defense mechanisms. There's a valid application. This probably applies to you. But being petty, getting angry, letting my emotions roll, just willing to shoot the fair one with someone, fighting, the aggressiveness, instruments, tools that I used to use to defend myself, not caring, becoming numb, writing people off, holding grudges, the things that you do to make sure that you're good in here. All of these things we see people do around us. But when you're trying to give up all of that unhealthy behavior, when you're trying to let go of these things, you begin to feel exposed because you start going through life. You run into someone who does it to you. And this person is acting petty. They should know better. They're not doing better. But you know better and you're actually trying to do better. All right, that hurt a little bit. I try to be nice. That person was a jerk. Whatever, move on. I forgive him. I let it go. But then it happens again. And then it happens again. And now you're feeling like, yo, everybody's just misbehaving. Why in the world am I trying to be the good egg? Like, I'm exposed right now. Everybody else is doing whatever they want to do. Like, no one's kind. No one's really bearing fruits of the spirit. Everybody's just worried about them and making sure that they're good. I got to make sure that I'm good too. And what initially was your desire to be more, honor God, to bear fruits of the spirit, to be forgiving, to let things go, to do things that can very well leave you feeling exposed, it's now retreating. That desire is retreating because fitting out is hard. Because doing the right thing is hard when everybody around you is doing the wrong thing. Understand, the people of God looked around and everybody else had a king and they were fully exposed, and it's easy to judge them and say, you ain't trust God. How many times do we not trust God? You try to do the right thing and you get hurt so much in the process, being the good guy, playing the right role, doing the right things, making the right decisions. You lose so much in the process that it's easy to think like, yo, maybe it's time for me to start setting up kings to defend myself. Start setting up these defense mechanisms. We need an army. We need to get back to fighting. We need to be a jerk. We got to talk back. We got to make sure that we're good because we're just, everybody's just hurting us right now. We need some defense. Just leads to a hardened heart. We harden our hearts to make sure that it doesn't break. You know what's crazy? This has nothing to do with the Bible. This is my own personal analogy, metaphor, whatever. A soft heart, it's fleshy. You can stab it, it'll bleed. You can hurt it, right? It doesn't break though. You'd have to tear it apart. It's harder to break something like that. Something cushiony, it's harder. It's really easy to break something that's hard though. And we harden our hearts as a defense mechanism because we feel like the same little things that were poking us, they're gonna break. If someone's trying to poke a regular heart with a needle, they'll puncture it. You try to poke a rock with a needle, it's not gonna penetrate, right? It's not gonna penetrate, but you become more fragile. That rock is dropped. You can chip it, you can break it, you begin to lose pieces of it. So we harden our hearts in hopes that it will keep us from getting hurt, but we're actually becoming more fragile. We're actually losing some of our, I don't know if dexterity is the word. We're losing some of the natural properties of our hearts that can withstand the pain and continues to function. And that's crazy. Because you think about it, piece of paper, I can wave it. I can do all of this. Doesn't break. If this were a piece of glass though, and I just snapped it, that's it. It's a wrap. Doesn't have the ability to sustain the hits. And that's what we do a lot of the times. We set up kings. We harden our hearts. We let go of trying to be good and do the right thing. And we become more fragile to the break. And the break always comes, right? You start being petty. You start doing what you can to defend yourself and make sure that you're good. And someone just comes along who matches that same energy. and you collide. Yeah, or maybe you continue to collide and you're chipping. Parts of you are just breaking off and you're chipping and you're just never the same again. I don't know if you see it, but I read that verse and that's what was on my mind. And so I figured I'd share it. If you're just in that crossroad where you feel like you got to start setting up kings and hardening your heart and building up your defenses and stop being such a nice person and doing the right things because this world is beating you down, I guarantee you, long run, it may not feel like it today. Today you're in the fire. It's no sight of rain. No one's coming to your rescue. But I guarantee you got the strength to sustain it. And when you get to the end, you'll realize you were better off for it. It's your boy Sam with Vertical Expressions. It's been real. Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I'll see you again. Not another Christian podcast. This has been real. Peace.